My name is Dr Simon McNair. I'm a Leverhulme Early Career Research Fellow at the Centre for Decision Research at Leeds University Business School. And for the past 3 years, I've been involved in a research project in partnership with Citizens Advice here in Leeds and also in Bradford. And what we've been interested in looking at is if we can integrate emotional support into the debt advice process and whether doing so would appreciably benefit debt advice clients' emotional well-being. And this project was really in response to kind of two areas. Firstly, we know from a lot of other research that debt advice clients typically are very upset and going through a lot of emotional upheaval as a result of being in debt. Secondly, there's been lots of calls in the UK recently for debt advice to help clients develop emotional resiliency. And so we wanted to develop an advice resource that debt advisors could use to help their clients develop emotional resiliency. The resource that we developed is a 16-page A5 booklet. We've called it Money Worries and How to Beat Them. And in this booklet, it's divided into 5 sections, and each section deals with a specific issue that debt advice clients and also debt advisors at Citizens Advice told us that debt advice clients typically experience in relation to being in debt. So the first 3 sections of the booklet, for instance, deal with specific emotional concerns like feeling stressed, feeling self-conscious, so that's things like feeling guilt or shame or embarrassment, which are really aversive negative emotions that people experience in relation to debt. There's also a section dealing with self-criticism and self-deprecation, because a lot of people put themselves down about being in debt, and that can be a real emotional burden. And each of those sections has a similar narrative structure, so it starts by explaining what the emotion is and how to recognize it. It then details what some of the consequences of those emotional experiences are, what kinds of negative behaviours they might lead to, for instance. And then finally, and crucially, it contains some advice about how to counteract those negative emotions, how to combat negative thinking patterns, for instance, how to beat stress in the heat of the moment. And a lot of that advice contains written exercises, thought exercises, and also in some cases some physical exercises as well. The final sections of the booklet then deal with how to strategically plan, so how to take tasks and break them down into smaller, more manageable steps that are perhaps less stressful to try and achieve, and also how to reflect on progress that's been made, because it's really important when tackling these kinds of issues to remind yourself of the progress that you're actually making. Debt advice teams at Citizens Advice in Bradford and also in Leeds gave us tons of really useful feedback about how to improve our booklet from the first version that we had. Everything from reducing the size of it to tweaking the text and the language and the look and the feel of it. So once we were happy that we had a final version of it, we implemented the booklet into the debt advice process at Citizens Advice in those branches. And what we did is we invited incoming debt advice clients to complete a short survey ahead of their first debt advice appointment. And that survey asked them about how they were feeling lately, basically. Then what we did is we selected at random half of those clients to then receive our booklet at the end of their debt advice appointment. Then, 1 month after that debt advice appointment, we contacted all of those clients again, both those who did receive the booklet as part of their advice appointment and those who did not receive the booklet. And we asked them to complete another copy of that same survey, again asking them about how they'd been feeling lately. And so what that allowed us to do, firstly, was to track how people's emotional well-being had changed from before their debt advice appointment to a month after. But it also allowed us to see whether there might be differences in how people's emotional well-being had changed, contingent on whether they had also received our Money Worries booklet or not. Firstly, it was the case that all debt advice clients, irrespective of whether they received our Money Worries booklet or not, showed some improvements in their emotional well-being a month after their first debt advice appointment. So that really goes to show that seeking advice from organisations like Citizens Advice is beneficial and should be something that people do if they're struggling with their finances. What we were able to determine was that those clients who did receive our Money Worries booklet as part of the debt advice process showed a stronger improvement in their emotional well-being over the course of that month. So it was the case, for instance, that people who came to Citizens Advice for debt advice and also received our booklet showed stronger improvements in their stress levels, showed stronger improvements in how much guilt they were feeling, and showed stronger improvements in their self-confidence as well 1 month later. Now, there were some areas where we found that the booklet didn't seem to lead to any improvements. So specifically, we find that 1 month later, clients still had fairly high levels of shame and still also felt fairly high levels of self-criticism. Now, that could be because those particular emotional concerns are just that little bit more difficult to overcome. They might need a little bit longer to overcome. They may be just that little bit more entrenched and so need a little bit of additional support to overcome. Besides the emotional benefits that we found the booklet seemed to have, we also found that it had some behavioral impacts as well. So people who received our Money Worries booklet also reported being a little bit more engaged with their day-to-day finances. So 1 month later, people who received the booklet said that they were more likely to have set a budget, for instance, were more likely to be keeping track of their expenditure. So the booklet seemed to have not only emotional impacts, but also behavioral impacts too. So our real hope and ultimate aim for this project was to develop an advice resource that could be used by any debt advisor, any debt advice organization that would appreciably help debt advice clients to deal with the emotional upheavals that debt can often bring. And we have evidence and results to suggest that our booklet can provide that kind of support. So we would encourage anybody in the debt advice sector to take a look at our brochure, our booklet. It's freely available online. There's no cost to access it. There's no cost to use it. All I would ask is that if you do use our Money Worries booklet, or if you are interested in it, please do get in touch with us. I'm very, very happy to provide any support and insight that I can. And I would encourage any debt advisor to use the booklet as they see fit. So if you're a debt advisor and you look at our Money Worries booklet and you think you would like to use section 1, but maybe not the other sections, please do so. If you see our Money Worries booklet and you want to use all of it from cover to cover, please do so. If you see our Money Worries booklet and you think that you might want to use it as a template to develop your own version of something better, please do so.